Spokane listens when business talks. Welcome to Business Talks, the region's only local business talk show with your host, Ryan McNeice. Business Talks is brought to you by our friends at STCU and Well Dressed Walrus. Now, let's get down to business with Business Talks.
Welcome to the show. I'm Ryan McNeice, and we're here in the studio with Mateusz, Wolski, and Molly Allen. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we're here to talk about the M Show.
Yes.
And if folks don't know what the M Show is, tell us, because it is something different. When we're thinking Spokane Symphony, I think it conjures a certain type of visual. But the
Yes.
M Show is something different. And to have both Molly and yourself together on this show...
It's a lot of M.
Yeah, that's a lot of
M.
This time actually M show stands for Molly.
Yeah.
So
the Molly Show.
Yeah, the Molly Show. Yeah. So the M show. The M show is about music, mayhem, and mystery. What I mean by that is that I was asked to develop a show led by a concertmaster a couple seasons ago, and the idea was, why don't you? We'll give you a few like chamber orchestra. You can program whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
People love you. They love how you play. So just roll with it. Well, I took very seriously the part that they said, program whatever you want.
Yeah.
Yes, and then so I came.
You didn't take the part "We love you" seriously?
No, that one,
the mayhem part.
The mayhem part, yeah. No,
Okay.
so I came back with an idea. I was like, look, we already are doing so many wonderful, very artistic things, kind of the high art that we specialize in. I think it'll be really fun to do something that is semi-serious. It explores not only classical music but a crossover material, throws a bunch of funny stuff, and it takes a lens at the musicians that shows who we really are after the lights are off. What are we like? How do we relate each other while we are on stage? Things you might not know.
So is it safe to say a bit of a collision between what people would think the symphony is, along with what would be a progressive interpretation of what you're going to do?
Absolutely. I mean, the whole idea is it's the feel for the show. It's like a late night comedy show. It also has elements of Mythbusters. If anybody's seen the show, we do a bunch of experiments. Yeah. Like, for example, I show you one of our failed experiments was we wanted to see what's inside of the violin. And kind of this is what happened.
Now remind me, is that what Molly did? Or
yes.
Easy.
No.
Was this rehearsal?
Yes.
This is rehearsal.
I got mad.
Yes.
Okay.
So yeah, well, we're not going to do it with this one. Okay. But I really had a genuine question. Actually, what is inside the violin? I think there's a lot of people that are very curious what's inside of those things. They sound great, but nobody ever sees that.
Yeah, what constitutes the creation or what creates the sound?
Yeah, exactly. The other revelation to me was that I quite often joke that I have a fat fingers. Which allow when you play on the violin and you put they allow you to do what we call a vibrato, kind of a nice create a nice slash tone. It makes it a little troublesome when you have to play somewhere in those areas because the spaces between the fingers are very very narrow. So actually you have to in order to move one finger, you have to move another one away. So I joke I have fat fingers. And then we rented a camera that does 1,000 frames a second. And I was like, okay, let's see what it looks like when I'm playing, something really fast and flashy. And oh Lord, I look at my fingers and they literally look like, when they strike, they look like a bunch of fat ladies dancing up and down. The whole flesh jiggles. I mean, it's like I had no idea.
So
I imagine myself like, oh look, I play violin. I have this.
Yes, very precise and
yeah.
elegant.
And you're like, you take the camera like this close to it, and it's like, whoa. So anyway,
Molly, signing up for this,
Yes.
obviously very popular here in Spokane and otherwise with Dave, Ken, and Molly's show.
Thank you.
How is it to work with this individual?
Well,
Because you agreed to
the
this.
description is right. Our first meeting went something like this. I had my granddaughter with me, and I said, well, we're going to meet. We're going to discuss what we're going to do. And I said, we were going to meet at a coffee house. I said, well, I have my granddaughter. He said, well, I have a 3-year-old son. Bring her here. His wife is there. The babysitter's there. It's going to be fine. And he said, I'll get donuts. And I thought that was funny because I mean, I just thought it was funny. He said, I'll get donuts. Well, what I realized is it was like, well, there's guests. He likes donuts. So we have to have donuts. It was a treat,
Yes.
which was very fun. So we're there now, and it's supposed to be the two of us. All of a sudden, both kids are at the table, and his wife, and then their babysitter, and we're all hovered around the donuts talking, and they were fascinated by what we were doing. I thought it was so funny.
Yeah.
It was like what we were talking about was not that we were showing videos, but these two little kids just wanted to be near us because of the donuts.
But
So we had some donuts.
He created the atmosphere that was comfortable.
It was
Yeah.
wonderful, though. It was great because most of the time the kids would have scattered somewhere, but it was just that. But so that made me like him very much because I thought this is like my family.
Well, you
we would be
you
doing
were put
this.
at ease right away.
Yes,
But what
yes.
was it about the sales pitch, if you will, to do the M show, to do something different? Obviously, we're all familiar with the symphony here in
Yeah.
town, but what intrigued you about doing something different in regards to the M show?
Well, I always like to do something different,
Mhm.
and I do love the music of the symphony.
Right.
I'm not real schooled, and I
Well,
like
nor
the
am I.
more accessible stuff.
Mhm.
So to me, it was a perfect blend. I was honored to be asked. I love being around all the talent. It's just fascinating to me. It's something that is so out of this world to me that I could never do it. I don't understand any of it. I think it's fascinating. So being on stage with a bunch of people doing that is just
But I
It's
think a
crazy.
great word that you just used was accessibility.
Yeah.
And I think oftentimes when we're talking about the M show, that accessibility, not only the Spokane audience, but beyond, is the key theme of trying to do something different, potentially attract a whole nother circle of,
Yeah.
of interested listeners.
Yeah.
and to see the other side of him and he showed me all these videos of the myth busting things that they've done, which is really interesting. But to mix the two, and if maybe some people who listen to my radio show, our
Right.
radio show, and they decide to come see the symphony and they never have before, well, then that's a huge win, right? Because it's a crossover. Or maybe I meet some people there who don't know who I am, and then they say, oh, well, I'll try listening to your show now.
Well,
so
and
it's kinda
Molly,
crossover.
you've done such a good job of, as you indicated, you like something new, you like being in different genres, not only doing and agreeing to do the M show, but also from a writing standpoint, a theater standpoint. You're award-winning playwright,
Thank
and
you.
well, it's impressive, and I think the general listener does know what you've accomplished in the radio and playwright and theater world, and obviously yourself, very accomplished in the symphony world. So that combination should
Well,
be
that's
impressive,
good.
Well,
right?
I think we're gonna have a good time. So,
Yes.
I mean, I you know, the fascinating thing to me is that there's a number of things that I would love to experience in my life, and we like to box ourselves into a certain places. You know, you're supposed to be in the courtroom, right?
Well,
And all of a
Right.
sudden you're doing a radio show. I supposed to wear a suit and a tie and play violin and just zip it,
Yep.
especially because I have an accent, you know. And then all of a
It's
sudden,
real, right?
It
The
is.
accent.
Yes,
Okay.
no, I'm
It's
100%
everything.
Polish.
He
You know, I mean.
keeps it up really well. I don't know how he does it.
Anyway, so but the thing is that all of a sudden, you know, I created something, maybe even just for my own personal, because of my
Right.
own personal curiosity, where I can go and go to someone like Molly and say, hey, can we hang out? You know, can you imagine that I was just guy off the street and say, hey, can we have a coffee? You know,
His
I would
violin
I
got
would
him in the door.
Yeah,
I'm
there
gonna
you
tell
go.
you that.
So, you know,
Yeah.
so that's the beauty of the whole thing, that we get to connect with other artists from different genres, with different experiences, different outlooks on life, and we all love to explore things that are interesting and beautiful and fascinating, and kind of get underneath the skin and figure out what makes us tick.
Oftentimes, isn't that true, though? You just mentioned that oftentimes with artists, you're doing it for a personal passion, yet it comes off that you are entertaining and entertaining audiences, but oftentimes the original kind of impetus for whatever it is you're doing, whatever endeavor, probably is a personal passion.
I think I grew up resisting the entertainment world so much because I grew up in it, and I didn't find it particularly attractive or practical. I thought it was ridiculous that people would wait around for jobs. I was like, well, just don't
Yeah,
you just
why
go
would
get
I
a
do
job?
that?
When I was 15, I just went and got a job. I didn't have an agent calling me to say I could maybe go audition for a job that I might get.
Let me know
But
when
if
I
my
can
nose
work.
was too big, I wasn't going to get it.
Right.
It just didn't make sense to me. So I stayed away from it. Then when I started theater, I loved it. And more than anything, I love being on stage. I love getting laughs. I love the people.
Mm-hmm.
I love the family of it, and that brought me into the entertainment world. But I certainly do love being on stage, and the biggest thrill is seeing my writing being performed, because that's thrilling.
Well, I find that fascinating too,
Yeah,
because
I
you're
love
the
it.
one putting it on the page, and then to see it interpreted. And of course, you're there in terms of directing. But is there an issue sometimes there in terms of a creative issue that it's sometimes maybe interpreted differently than you meant it to be?
You know, I've been lucky. This last play that we did, Closing It Up, my friend Heather McHenry-Crush directed it, and all the people who were in it were fantastic. And I didn't have a single moment with a single word that I didn't believe, and I think they all know me well enough, and especially she does. She did a great job of directing it. But I have seen little things performed that I've written and gone, what are they reading?
You're like, that isn't how I visualize this on the page.
But that's not my job. You know, I have to write something that everybody can interpret if I'm going to be a writer, and I'm going to let it go that way. But I think that what draws artists together is that the same thing that it costs me to be on stage to put myself out there is what it costs him to be on stage. We have different talents, we have different skills, but an artist is an artist is an artist, and a performer is a performer.
Yeah, at the end of the day,
Yes.
you're wanting to entertain, you're wanting to get that audience engagement. Might be done in a different way. You might be approaching it a certain way. You have your violin in hand. Clearly, Molly and I do not.
Yes.
Otherwise, it would end up like the...
like the piece that I brought before, right?
Yeah. We have about a minute till break. You want to play us a little piece? And we might have you play after the break, too.
Twist my arm.
Hey, I'm scooting away.
Okay, so I don't hit you. So this is one of the, I always like to include an interesting song that is a little bit more current than what we usually play.
I don't even want to touch that thing. It's worth more than my house times 3.
Let's take a short break, and we'll come right back and chat in just a little bit. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, this is Kurt Stockwell with Well Dressed Walrus. We are a local website design and development company here in Spokane. What we do is build beautiful, usable websites for local businesses. A website needs to be beautiful. It needs to be usable for your users, your customers, and yourself. Contact us anytime. We'd love to talk with you about your online marketing.
I'm Jade Becker, and I'm a senior at Chewelah High School. I'm at STCU's Money Live event. In this scenario that we played today, I was a realtor. My spouse was a city worker. We had an 11-month-old child, and there was a lot of spending for that child, like diapers and formula, and had to buy toys and clothing. I'm very glad that I had this experience. It was super helpful. You need this to get far and ahead in life. I'm Jade Becker, and STCU is here for good.
The following is sponsored by our friends and community supporters at McNeice Wheeler Attorneys. McNeice Wheeler is a boutique law firm in Spokane, handling matters in both Washington and Idaho. Areas of law include business law, wills, trusts and estates, family law, personal injury and wrongful death, and real estate matters. For your full-service legal needs, contact McNeice Wheeler Attorneys.
See you tomorrow night, and thanks again for taking care of the painting.
I got this.
Bye.
Weekends are made for painting. Let the experts at Rada Paint take care of you.
Hi. This looks amazing.
Rada Paint, over 80 years of quality, tradition, and trust. Find it in every can.
custom lighting in the kitchen.
I'm into it.
Mm-hmm.
To help you be safe, Washington state law requires you to call 811 2 full business days before you plan, for example, to dig, drill, plow, pull from, or pound anything into the ground. Be prepared to provide the operator with the correct address, cross street, and the description of your work. You must mark the dig area with white paint. The operator will inform you of the utilities notified of your impending excavation. Wait for all their marks. Be safe and dig with care.
Welcome back to the show. We're here in the studio with Molly Allen and Mateusz Wolski. Molly Allen, KZZU, Dave Ken and Molly show.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody knows Molly and Mateusz, Spokane Symphony, becoming a real namesake here in Spokane. We've been discussing the M show, which really is kind of that juxtaposition of traditional symphony along with the progressive nature of let's talk about that. Right. Give us some substance about, you don't have to give it away, so to speak, but tell us what we could be looking to see. And let's also note that it is Friday, November 16th, and Saturday, November 7th. So tickets still available?
Yes. Yeah, you can get them at the SpokaneSymphony.org. I think we also we'll take your money at the door. So just
for tickets.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, hey, I take tips too. It's fine.
I mean, I'm gonna be there, so I'll take the money too.
Okay.
Just because.
So basic structure of the show goes as follows. We have, it's a little bit the way the show flows. It's kind of similar to Saturday Night Live. If you actually went to the actual taping of a show, right. We have some live skits that we perform, and we take ourselves semi-seriously, so we make funny things, and we'll on this show we'll show you what the string quartet rehearsal looks like. And
a bit of a pull the veil back, behind the scenes.
Yes, yeah. How do we relate to each other? But you also might find out what we might be thinking at the same time as we're doing it. And there's a creative way, I think, that I came up to give people a taste, and at least from our perspective, it's really funny. We also do a professionally produced videos. Jim Svoboda with ILF Media is helping me with that, where there are certain experiments or experiences that I cannot reenact in a small, intimate space like the Penthouse that we'll be performing in. So I kind of want to have the ability to go and take the audience places for 3 minutes. And essentially, like if you ever watch SNL, that all of a sudden they have a scene in the restaurant or on the street, as opposed to the live skit that they have in their studios. So that kind of going back and forth and videos meshing with the live performance. Of course, there's going to be performance of some of the musical pieces, but there's always a context and story that I want to take the audience. I want to take audience on a journey.
So there's a bit of a trajectory.
Yeah, there's a trajectory, and as the show has been developing, I mean, this is our essentially third episode, so to speak, of the show. I do essentially 2 a season. So we had 2 shows last season. This season, this is the first of the.
And then there'll be 1 this spring as well.
Yes, there's a series of characters that are starting to come out of the woodwork. One of the characters that got created early on is one of our percussion players. His name is Rick. And of course, because I've been ordering him around a lot, he became Rick, my butler. And then in this show, we are starting to flesh out, why did he become my butler? What is his role in this whole thing?
I'd almost like to hear his answer versus yours.
Yes, absolutely. No, and it's hilarious because it's like as I start creative writing, I came up with this idea, and I kind of put the seeds of what the characters can become, and then. We're not really professional actors, we're professional musicians, but everybody has certain streaks about them, and I'm trying also like bring musicians. Some have a better acting chops than the others, some are phenomenal players, but yeah, please do not make them reenact anything. And then there are some people that actually are, I think they're really funny. They bring a lot of stuff. So as we're doing it, it's like, oh wow, this looks really great. You know, let's make it kind of like recurring character in a sitcom. And that's what's been kind of happening. And there are several characters that we used for the videos that all of a sudden I was like, oh my goodness, this is so funny. I need to shoot a video and make them a kind of recurring, have a recurring role.
Fold them in.
Yes, fold them in. So there's a more and more kind of a story unveiling as we do all our regular shenanigans, you know. And the whole atmosphere during the show is going to be, we're going to have a bar. You can get your drinks. We're going to have the show going on. You can kind of mingle around. There's some sitting and standing room. I think we're going to even have some couches. So very low, very, you know, it's a very kind of clubby like atmosphere. There's a wonderful balcony that overlooks the Spokane River. I mean, you can see the falls right straight from there. So if you need to go and have a smoke of some sort, you can just, you know, waltz out and you know, it's essentially, I wanted to do the antithesis of the regular concert experience.
Right.
I wanted you to come experience the people who are incredibly highly trained in a discipline.
You want to show, and you want folks to see and appreciate the talent, but maybe in a whole new, not physically new venue per se, but that too, but just the range potentially of what these people can do. And Molly, you mentioned this just a second ago in terms of the trajectory of the story and maybe taking pieces of these characters and seeing them unfold through the show, through the video. That's partly what your expertise is, though, is taking characters and having them unfold on the theater. He's done this all himself, just for the record.
Well, that's what
he said, but that's why I was asking.
No, but my part of it is just, we kind of created it together, just the idea, the premise is just that maybe when he was young and starting to play the violin, he thought that it would help him find a girlfriend. And so we sort of play out how he thought it would play out in his mind, and then how it actually played out.
Which
so
was
we
exactly the same, right?
Yes, it
to
was
be
exactly
continued, though.
the same.
To be continued. That's why you have to go check
That's
it out.
right.
Yes.
So it's exactly the same. So that's what we're kind of doing. But yeah, I mean, my thing is characters and stuff, and I think it'd be fun after I see this show. When he does another one in the spring, you know, I would be knocking at the door going, "Can I help you with ideas?"
Oh yes. I mean, this is one of those things that I'm getting my feet wet in something that I was not trained for. Absolutely,
That's
obviously.
the beauty of it.
You know, I mean, however, we've talked in some of our previous interviews that, you know, I have a race car and that's my passion on the side. And I'm not a mechanic, but I rebuild a holding engine, and you know, and car produces. You know, 3 times more power than the whole thing was designed for, and it's still
You're still on the track.
It's still running, and it's still winning races. So if I can rebuild the engine, and then you know, creating a show from scratch, and you know, wrangling people, it's just like another day in the office.
What's the phrase? Ignorance is bliss. And
Yes.
I think there's, and actually that's a compliment, because I don't think there's a field out there that there's a certain amount of confidence, self-confidence that's required. That passion that we spoke of, and then what do you want to try? Try it.
Well, I didn't know I was a playwright until I was a playwright.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I mean, everybody's doing what they're doing, and until you actually go out there and put it out in front of people, which is, you know, what my mom is always sort of amazed that I'm willing to do, because I'm not afraid to fail.
Right.
I'm really not, and that you have to not be afraid to fail. Sometimes things work better than others, but if you have this fear of a reputation you have to uphold, or that people might not like it, well, of course. I mean, I go on the air every day, and a lot of people don't like what I'm saying. They like the other guys, so they stick around, or vice versa.
Right.
And I hear about it.
Yep.
I get
but
texts.
you keep doing it.
This morning I got a text. Your opinion sucks. You need to shut up. I'm like, okay. I didn't understand all the details of the football player who wasn't playing. I didn't get it. I thought he was just saying, I'm not going to play. I don't need the $14.5 million. I didn't realize he wanted more money, and then his teammates were suffering. I didn't know that part.
You didn't realize there was more to the story.
But they just
okay.
They just like go, you suck. It's like, okay, all right. I'm sorry.
But the key to what you're saying is you're putting yourself out
Of
there
course.
because you're willing to do it.
Of course. And it's not that I don't care what they say, because I certainly do.
Right.
I'm still willing to do it. And I will get blasted sometimes, but that's okay.
But again, that's the connection that I foresee with the M Show, and the third installment now of the M Show is you're both actually coming from different backgrounds, different expertise, but that same general theme of why not? Why not?
I mean, the thing is, part of doing what you do, part of what I'm doing is there is a point where you have to become completely fearless, because if you're holding back, people can sense even if they're not experts when you're holding back and trying to be safe. And a long time ago, and probably that's why I ended up playing the violin, and that's why you became a playwright and actress. It's just jumping into the pool, not knowing if the water is there. There's a thrill about it. Sometimes there is a chance that there's no water in the pool, and that might be a big disaster. But more often than not, you find that you can fly. And that's and I think that life is worth living if you take chances. Otherwise, it's the famous Michael Jordan quote that I live by. You miss every shot that
I've taken 33,000 shots, etc., but I've won. Yeah.
If you don't take a shot, you for sure you're gonna miss it. Right?
Yep.
How safe would it be for you? Because obviously you've already mastered the violin, the fiddle. You could stay in an orchestra situation, sit in your chair, have the conductor tell you what to do, come to work, make a living.
What we're all used to
do
in
it,
terms of seeing
and do
that.
it. You've mastered your talent, so you have a way to make a living, right? You could do that,
right?
Or
yes.
You could take a big chance and do something really cool and bring a whole bunch of people in.
And then people are talking about it because you took the risk.
Yeah.
See, I always look at my 3-year-old and name celebrity, and I can put it in front of him on the iPad or something. He's going to be interesting. It's going to be interested. I take this and I play a note, and his eyes just go. And that's something that even when I came over to your place,
oh my gosh,
we're hanging out, and her boyfriend is there, who's a firefighter. I yanked this out, and for half an hour we talk about the violin, and they're asking questions that even I would not come up with, because they are not part of my work.
Yeah, they're coming from a objective.
And it's fascinating, and it's not that like, oh, violin, that's not cool. I listen only to this or that. And I think that there is a sense of accomplishment that people, before they, I just discovered when they were making those things, they were basing everything based on proportions, not actual measurements, because we didn't have, in the 1600s, there was not officially a unit of measurement that was uniform. That happened after the French Revolution. So
we're getting a history lesson here. The uniformity of measurement.
No, but you can see that we can switch gears, and that's part of what the M show is about. That we can be laughing, we can be having a serious conversation, we can flip into science, and all of a sudden talk about the grain of wood or how the string works, and then we can, say, hey, let's go for a drink, and then talk about sports.
Dance.
Yeah, and then we
dance. Spoiler alert: he's going to dance.
No, I'm not going to dance. She
what?
might make me dance.
Disagreement.
Just a little bit. Just a little
Ad
bit.
hoc, possibly. Well,
to dance.
It's exciting, and which one of us would be able to say that we didn't have a teacher telling us you should pick up an instrument? I mean, I think many teachers say that. My teacher, Mrs. Goffertson, in 4th grade, said, "Play an instrument." I tried a couple. I wasn't good at it, but I should have. She was right.
I was a first chair flute in 6th grade. I played in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade. I worked all the way to first chair. And then I met up with the middle schoolers. And then I was 14th chair. And I thought, well, no, this is going to take a long time. In my little school, there were only 5 of us playing flute. I just was like the powerhouse. And I liked playing the flute. What I liked about it was that I could look at music and I could read it. And that is fascinating to me. The fact that you're looking at this, and to me it's a bunch of dots, and I imagine to you as well. To you, that is your world. That makes sense.
Oh, that is
it's a language.
It's a language. It's like speaking of another language or something. But I wish that I had kept up, because I do remember being in that conversation and being able to do it.
But because you're taking the chance and you're doing the M show, you're essentially first chair. You're on the stage in this realm. So
thank you.
Yes,
first chair.
There you go. Will you play for us as we take us out?
Oof.
And by the way, thanks for both of you joining me. It is, again, it's Friday night and Saturday night. Tickets are still available. Come out and see this original show. Thank you both.
Thank you. Play our song.
Oh, our song.
Yes, we have a song.
Well done. Thank you both very much. See you there.
Business Talks is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Ask a question, recommend a guest, and hear this program again online anytime at SpokaneTalksOnline.com. Business Talks is brought to you by our friends at STCU and Well Dressed Walrus. Business Talks wishes you good business and a good day.